Hey, movie fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Uncharted Media Podcast. This is episode 106. Now, as you know, as we said maybe 2 weeks ago, again, apologies, took off last week. I was about to get ready to record. Heather and I were going to do an episode last week, but then right as we were about to record, my throat felt a little scratchy, and it was just like, I'm not really feeling it. Also, last week was super slow news-wise, so we're just like, let's just wait until next week when we can properly introduce our new co-host, not all the time, but whenever he is available, our new co-host, Michael. You've been on the show before, but welcome back in your more quasi-permanent role, but welcome back to the show. Nice to have you.
Hey, thanks, pal. I appreciate it. It is a privilege to be here. I know I've been on a couple times in the past, and I know that your thousands of fans were clamoring me for to come back, so I just had to do them the favor, to be honest.
Always a man of the people, and always just the most humble out there. But before we get into our news topics, I've been kind of all over the place with stuff that I've been both watching and reading. So, I'm not ABC Family, I swear, but Heather and I have been going through the Harry Potter movies again because I recently got the 4K set from Voodoo, and I'll be honest, not that much of an improvement over the Blu-rays. It's the audio mix is a little better, but it's still good to revisit old movies that I like. Not even old. Maybe they are. Now that I think about it, Harry Potter ended almost 10 years ago, which doesn't make me feel good inside. Also, for those at home that really don't want to feel good inside, you know what turns 25 this month? Toy Story. You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. That hurts. Oh my gosh. You know, it's funny you mentioned this, Nate. I had a hilarious moment the other day. I was really struggling to find words. I could not remember what I wanted to say, and I just kept saying it's a, and I just remembered Rex going, it's a what? What is it? And that all came flooding back. So my gosh, 25, what a movie that was.
It actually was in theaters this past weekend at all my local theaters, and I was really tempted to see it. And I might go to the movies this weekend to see Freaky, but I don't know. I've heard it's good. I'm in a part of the world that's still scary, but I feel like movie theaters are probably one of the only like safe spots because they can control like how many people they take in and whatnot. Also, Freaky looks pretty cool. Besides Harry Potter, I've been reading a crap ton. I got a lot of comics for my birthday and a lot of books, so I've been trying to keep up with those. Got like 2 or 3 that I'm flip-flopping between. I'm reading the Watchmen comic, which is like really hard to put down. And I still say it's probably Zack Snyder's best work because he doesn't have to have nice people in it. And so long as he doesn't have to have morally good characters, he actually does pretty well. I'm flip-flopping between that and Taking Shape 2, which is basically a big, huge book about all of the Halloween movies that were never made. So, like, right now I'm reading about one of the Halloween 4s that got rejected, about Michael Myers basically killing a whole bunch of people at a drive-in, and then every time he gets shot, he grows by a foot. And so, like, by the end of the movie, he's like 12 feet tall and just magically vanishes into thin air at the end. I'm like, I know Halloween 6 is bad, but that's bizarre.
I can't imagine why that didn't get greenlit.
The Halloween franchise is all kinds of weird. But, Michael, you watching or reading anything good lately?
So I had a little bit of a kick this past few months here, and while my family's been away, I went back and had some nostalgia trips on some 90s action movies, such as Patriot Games, Enemy of the State, and The Fugitive. You know, I know that with the couple Jack Ryan movies Harrison Ford did, and I think it was the run he did Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, and he did The Fugitive in like back to back summers. And then I watched Will Smith and Gene Hackman in Enemy of the State, and they were just great. Like I am a sucker for those films. There's something special about all 90s action films, and I was really impressed by how relevant Enemy of the State was, even though that's 26 years ago. About like this idea of Big Brother and what they can do to track you and everything. So if anyone is looking for an interesting film. It's acted well, it's directed well, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it's also, I guess, sad to say, a probably incredibly plausible plot for some people. And then I have on my list, in honor of Sean Connery's passing, last week. I have still yet to watch this. I know it's very sad, but I need to satisfy my father and his desire for me to watch The Hunt for Red October. So that is the next film on my list that will be done next week. So it's all 90s action for me right now.
I didn't know if you were going to say Hunt for Red October or The Rock with.
I've not seen that one either. Is that
my
good?
Man, with my man Nicholas Cage.
Nicholas Cage.
Speaking of,
I was like, isn't that Michael Bay's first big huge film?
If not, it's one of his only good ones.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put a qualifier on there. I heard it's actually a well-directed film, and so I had not seen that. Okay.
The problem is Michael Bay. I think he's aware that he doesn't do good movies currently, because when pressed for it, he can make a good movie. I think the first Transformers is good. I heard pretty good things about 13 Hours. When he wants to, he can make good movies. I think he just cares more about financially viable movies than quality movies. And if that's what your deal is, that's fine. You brought up Connery. I'm dedicating this episode to Alex Trebek because that man, for a lot of us, he was our evening TV basically, and it's gonna be really hard to replace him. And I don't know if anybody will ever truly replace him. But to me, I've said for years, even before he had any health complications, to me there's only one person to take the mantle next, Ken Jennings, and I think they're grooming him because he was brought on to be an executive producer recently. I would not be surprised if they're grooming him to be the next host. I have my Alex Trebek pop figure. I'm a huge Jeopardy person, so we've lost a legend, but he was one of, if not the best, game show host of all time. But
yes, absolutely.
Let us not dwell on sadness. Actually, right now it's our job to dwell on the sad, because our first news topic tonight is not pleasant, but I feel like it's more complicated than people want it to admit because it involves somebody that people really, really enjoy. I might step on some toes, and that's fine. So what we're talking about is Johnny Depp, most famously, at least recently, is attached to the Fantastic Beasts franchise as the main villain, Gareth? Something Grindelwald. It doesn't matter, the movies are terrible. Something Grindelwald. Well, he has now been asked to resign from the role from Warner Brothers themselves, asking him this, due to his ongoing legal battle with ex-wife Amber Heard. Here's where I'm going to step on some toes, but I feel like I'm trying to see both sides here. Warner Brothers is absolutely justified in their decision to do this. However, I still completely agree with other people saying they need to fire Amber Heard. Yes, I agree with the people that are saying fire Amber Heard. I don't agree with the people that are saying Johnny Depp is innocent. So I say that because this whole more or less the firing aspect of this came when a newspaper basically called him an abuser. He attacked his wife, Amber Heard, and whatnot. And I've been trying to avoid this story just because we don't like celebrity gossip here, but it's trickled over to the movie world proper now. And so after this newspaper more or less reported these stories, Johnny Depp was suing them for libel. However, the information came back. So basically Johnny Depp had to prove his innocence, and that's what would get him off the hook. However, the judge ruled that there wasn't enough substantial evidence to count him innocent. On the flip side, actually, it more makes him look guilty. Now, I'm not saying he's innocent or he's guilty, because for anybody saying he's innocent or he's guilty, I'm not saying anybody involved is innocent or guilty because I am not there in that courtroom. I don't know 100% of the story. I never will. What I'm saying this as someone that is trying to put themselves in the shoes of a Warner Brothers executive, which is, I know, a difficult task. I'm letting both of them go right now. I don't care who's innocent. I don't care who's guilty. I'm letting them both go, and here's why. No matter what happens here, come the next release of whatever their movie is, for either of them, interviewers are not going to be asking them about their movie. They're going to be asking them about this extracurricular activities in the court case. If I'm a movie studio, I want all my attention to be focused on this movie. That's what press tours are for. That's what, spoiler alert, late night TV is not there to entertain you. Late night TV is there to sell you a movie that's coming out. And if interviewers and everyone involved keeps asking about a specific thing that has nothing to do with the movie, that's distracting and taking up company time. I have no desire or interest to be involved in he said, she said. That being said, I understand, and I would do the exact same thing if I'm Warner Brothers, because it's a looming cloud that's more or less hung over the Fantastic Beasts franchise since day one. That's how long this thing has gone on for. I remember in the first Fantastic Beasts, when he shows up at the end, people were kind of like, because that was more or less when this case started. So I get, and I completely agree with Warner Brothers' decision to let him go. That being said, Amber Heard also needs to be let go. I think it's more just from a PR standpoint of, this doesn't look good on anybody involved. So we just, it's like, Michael, remember that scene in The Dark Knight when they needed to go to China to get Lau back, and Morgan Freeman's just like, we just can't afford to do business with whatever you're being accused of doing business of. We don't think you did it, but it just looks bad on us. I think that's more or less the approach Warner Bros. Has to take here. Do you see it different?
This is a very difficult situation, and I'm not going to pretend to know more than what I do. And I think it's disingenuous for anyone to use the word no, or use the word assurances or facts when we absolutely do not know. Social media certainly influences public opinion to a point that I think is completely unhealthy. And you said it. We are not in the courtroom. We are not privy to the facts presented. We are not the judge in this case. I picture this like, if you think I'm being impartial or maybe too wishy-washy here, my question to anyone who is vehemently on one side or the other in this case is that if you were a judge judging a case and handing down a punishment, what would you have to know in order to justly give a verdict? Most people would say, well, you need to know both sides. You need to look over the evidence. You need to see if there was motive. You need to weigh the pros and cons of a actual like verdict and what the consequences can be. So like you need to know pretty much everything, right? Well, to be impartial and to do justice. Well, in this case, what do we have? We have conjecture that's thrown out there, and we're only given just a piece. And mind you, the piece of the puzzle that we're given oftentimes is just what people want us to see. So we're not even judging it for ourselves. So I absolutely agree from a PR perspective. I think it absolutely would be best for both studios to part ways, for both of them, for it to be mutual, because everything that seems to have been thrown out there and the evidence that we do have is that this is not necessarily the healthiest of relationships. You have other celebrities testifying to that thing, like Sharon Osbourne, for example. Not saying that is going to be true. It's just her input. It's her opinion. But, and in this situation, I think from an outsider's perspective, something is not right. And the reports, I say loosely, of both sides, you're 100% right. What is the narrative of a film going to be? A film is supposed to be a celebration of a master achievement of people coming together to do a magnificent thing by creating this piece of art. I know one of our favorites in the media talks, John Campea talks about how impossible it is to make a movie, right? Well, what if you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into something, and at the end of the day, the questions are, so what was your inspiration for this movie? Or, hey, what were some challenges you overcame? No, it's about this thing that you're not connected to. And I think, from a strictly PR perspective, couldn't agree with you more, Nate. I think that's the best way, but I'm not here to make any moral judgments because that's not why we're here. I don't want to wade into that.
you bring up the distracting questions, it completely reminds me of, do you remember, because a lot of people don't, a Ben Affleck movie called Live by Night?
Oh, that sounds familiar, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Exactly. A lot of people blame Justice League for why Ben Affleck left the role of Batman. I don't think it was Justice League as much as people want to bag on that movie. It's a movie he made called Live by Night. And why do I bring that up? Because you said you pour your heart and your soul into something and people ask you questions that aren't even related to your thing. When he made Live by Night, 90% of his questions had nothing to do with the movie Live by Night. They had everything to do with, so what's your Batman movie going to be like? When's your Batman movie coming out? With this, that, or the other thing. It's that type of principle of, if you're doing something for a movie, you want 110% of that attention on the movie itself, and anything else besides that is just distraction. To bring it to more positive news, and this is like super, super late breaking to the point that I didn't even have time to make it a graphic yet, it seems like Warner Bros. Is moving very, very quickly to replace him, as it seems like Mads Mikkelson is in early talks for this role. I have thoughts about this. Before I get into it, though, Michael, what are you thinking about Mads Mikkelson as Grindelwald?
Yes, and it's important to know that these are not just rumors from uncredible sources. These are just coming directly from Deadline.
Yeah, not we got this covered.
Yeah, exactly. This I think is perfect. You still, like, from a visual perspective, just visually, what an amazing drop-in replacement. First off. And then you actually have the actor and the credentials behind it. If you want somebody playing a menacing figure, sadly, he's been typecast a lot for that, for good reason. He does a great job, and I think fans will be 100% behind it. Now, the bigger thing is that you hopefully got to cast him in a movie that's good. I think that's the bigger point.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is right now, I don't care. You could cast my favorite, Joel Edgerton, as Grindelwald, and you've burned me so much on the last one that you basically have to show me pure and simply magic in order to get me back in the theater, because it's just, that last one was so bad. And even the first one wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't good enough to get me interested. I only saw Crimes of Grindelwald thinking it would be a step up, but it was so much worse. Here's where I'm not too happy with this. Like, I like Mads Mikkelsen. He seems great. I'm more just going, guys, you had a really, really easy thing here. Just bring back Colin Farrell from the first movie. So, I don't know if you saw the movie, Michael, or not, but in the movie, Colin Farrell is the bad guy for most of this until it's revealed at the end that Johnny Depp was disguising himself as this other person. I'm just going, why don't you just say that the Johnny Depp thing was a disguise and the original actor was the real Grindelwald all along? Maybe that's just simpler in my brain, but also I like Colin Farrell. And also, they're already in the same studio because Colin Farrell is busy in the Matt Reeves Batman movie as the Penguin. So they're already in the house working together on stuff. Why is it so hard to bring Colin Farrell back? I'm not mad at the Mads Mikkelsen thing. I just think Colin Farrell would have been an easier explanation, but they seem to not care about explanations at all in these Fantastic Beasts movies.
Yeah, that it's actually a really good point. I never even thought of that, to be honest with you. So I think that's actually a just as good idea because he's a great actor. He's already been there. Fans would at least recognize him. So if you're trying to get anyone back, it can be certainly confusing because I don't know. I mean, I'm a movie fan, but I'm not constantly reading up on movie news. Now, and the thing is I knew about this Johnny Depp situation, and I don't know if a lot of people who are going to go to these movies are going to maybe realize, hey, especially the younger audiences, are they going to pay attention to the fact that there's been this ongoing legal battle, and that's why Johnny Depp was replaced by Mads Mikkelsen, supposedly, and like that for me, it's like, why not? From a story perspective, it does seem like a better idea of what you're going with. So actually, it's a good idea. I never thought of it that way.
Well, I would like to say we're done with the bad news, but sorry, it's 2020. There's nothing but bad news here. And that is that while I wasn't excited for either of these movies, it still sucks either way. As basically, two of our last theatrically released movies in Ryan Reynolds' Free Guy and Kenneth Branagh's Death on the Nile have now been delayed, and with no new release date in sight, leaving just Freaky this Friday, Freaky Friday, and Wonder Woman 1984 in December as our only major theatrically released movies for the rest of the year. This is very, very bad. Like, the movie theater industry is bad in a bad enough state right now. Like, they're basically on their hands and knees begging the federal government, going, please, we need money. And a lot of businesses need money. But these two movies in particular, while they weren't going to light up the box office, they're big enough movies that could have at least put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound for at least a little bit of people. Say what you want about Tenet. I don't think it was people being afraid to go to the theaters that Tenet didn't do well. I think Tenet didn't do well because Tenet isn't a good movie. And you need to put good quality movies in theaters for people to see them. I keep bringing it up as an example, but you know what did surprisingly well in theaters? Bill and Ted Face the Music, because, spoiler alert, it was a good movie. But also, it opened on video on demand the same day as it did in theaters, which not a lot of movies can legally get away with that. This is not good news for the theaters. It puts all the weight on Wonder Woman 1984, which I'm still convinced is going to get delayed again. This spells even more danger for the movie theaters. Now AMC, I saw, is doing private screenings, which they should have been doing all along. But you see that not just one, but two, in any other year, would be major movies have been delayed again with no new release date in sight. Michael, is there any silver lining here?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned with all these theaters, like my state here in Michigan, for the most part, except for the last couple of weeks, my local Goodrich Qualities Theaters just posted on the 16th of October that they were finally going to start getting back to reopening. I have not been able to go to the theater here. Michigan, for better or for worse, has been one of the most locked down states of the union. So I have not had an opportunity to even go at all. And so that is certainly the challenge for a lot of people out there. I know Florida is a little bit different than, the Michigan's different from New York, different from California. So these bigger, industry states with a lot of people, and that's going to impact a lot. And for me personally, I was never going to see Free Guy, but Ryan Reynolds is a big box office draw, arguably one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. People love him, and this did seem like it had a lot of mass appeal, especially to people like younger millennials and then Gen Z people. Like, I could see them just loving this film. But Death on the Nile, I actually loved the rendition of Murder on the Orient Express. Like that, I'm a sucker for that stuff. So I actually was excited for that because that was going to be a movie. When was the original release date of that, by the way?
Like Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. Okay, yeah, because we usually go to a film like as a family, and that would have been one that wouldn't have a lot of smut in it. Something I could comfortably see with my parents, without feeling embarrassed.
Or if it's anything like Murder on the Orient Express, it wouldn't have a lot of quality in it either.
And that's really funny. I actually like.
I'm not gonna lie. Like the movie. I'm not gonna lie. Heather and I watched Murder on the Orient Express because I was super excited for it too. I hated that movie so much.
Oh man, that's unfortunate.
I don't know how you think about this, but for those at home, at least in my opinion, a good murder mystery is one that when you rewatch it later, like a Knives Out, which is the best movie of last year,
yes.
When you rewatch it, you can solve the mystery yourself because you already know the clues to look out for. You cannot do that with Murder on the Orient Express because they purposely withhold information from you, so it seems like some big, look at how smart Hercule Poirot is at the end. No, he's really not that smart because you purposely withheld information from me. Well, I couldn't have figured this out. That's not a good murder mystery. Also, some of the cinematography in this was so questionable. Let's take a look at Johnny Depp's character from outside the train while it's docked for some reason. It's not like one of those angles of someone's watching him. No, it was just a poorly composed shot. I was like, The heck
Well,
is this?
you have that stuff too. I guess from a narrative perspective, I mean, you could just blame Agatha Christie on that. Like, it's not necessarily the filmmaker, but trying to make a faithful adaptation. I don't know. Have you read Death on the Nile? I haven't, but
Nope.
I mean,
The problem is,
what?
lately, Kenneth Branagh is, if it's Shakespearean, it's great. If it's not, Artemis Fowl.
Well, it's really great. You mentioned something, and I have not asked you this question, so forgive a sidebar here. Did you actually see Tenet?
I've read enough, and I didn't care, so I read the full spoiler, so it's just like, that doesn't sound very Nolan. It does, but it doesn't sound very Nolan-y.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
like,
Because I didn't have it. I didn't. Again, everything was closed here. I haven't talked to anyone who's actually seen it. I've only heard other people, like reviewers and certain sites, say it. Because I really do want to see it still.
it's coming on Blu-ray in December.
Yes.
So, the problem that I'm having with Nolan, and then we'll segue into our next, more upbeat topic about the apocalypse. The problem I'm having with Nolan is, the sad thing is, if I'm really analyzing his movies, because he's one of my favorite directors, I don't think he's had a truly great movie since Inception. Because Interstellar is a 7 out of 10 at best. Dunkirk, it's fine. It's whatever. Dark Knight Rises, it's fine. It's whatever. And then Tenet it's not awful, but it makes me think that he may actually have some form of a hearing problem from everything I'm hearing of. It's the most poorly sound mixed movie that people have ever seen. Like, Heather was working at the theater at the time, and she's just like, I refuse to see this movie because when I'm cleaning in 2 theaters over, I can hear Tenet because it's so loud.
Interesting. Well, the Dark Knight Rises. That was a disaster. I've been thinking about it because Interstellar, definitely they're ambitious films. Like he goes and does things that visually have not been done before, and he attacks certain topics that really haven't been explored. And I think that might give way when you have a lot of this basically this philosophy and his own interpretation of like our existential reality, because he likes to change the game and change the rules. When you change the rules, you can do whatever you want, but there's still got to be some logic and rationale, to what's going on. And obviously, Interstellar being one of those. Like, if everything is so sophisticated and so and everyone is connected. I'm not even going to talk about love, but in that movie, when they go to the planet that has the massive waves, they get that transmission, and it's like, wait a minute, if you know that it's next to a black hole and you just got the transmission, then there's a way you can figure out how long they've been down there and what the consequences are going to be. So it's like, you have like, wait a minute, once you start breaking the films down, you start getting into like, well, because they're going to be analyzed, right? I mean, the average moviegoer is going to look at them and go, well, that was kind of weird, but entertaining, but still kind of weird. That's why they don't make a whole lot of money.
Oh no, Nolan movies make a lot of money, dude. Why do you think Warner Bros. Wants to work with them so much?
Well, I don't think but they're not like a success like a Star Wars or like a Marvel film. They don't have that type of appeal.
They make like $800 million each.
I mean, that of course, Dark Knight Rises is not like a cerebral film.
Interstellar made almost $1 billion.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'm just wrong. You'd expect it for how good and how I always just expect him to make more, but I don't know. I guess I have to look up more of the box office returns on a lot of stuff. But that I guess that's beside the point. I think he gets lost in the minutia, and there's just not a whole lot there. That's just my opinion.
This is how we're going to segue, because it's going to be masterful. So Christopher Nolan is often cited for his emotionally distant and kind of cold main characters that aren't really the best portrayed. Someone that has extremely great characters is John Krasinski in his A Quiet Place series, which I'm still incredibly bitter that this virus happened right as A Quiet Place 2 was about to come out, because there's some press screenings that saw A Quiet Place 2. So there's some people on this earth that have seen A Quiet Place 2 and loved it, and I am not one of them. I need to see this movie because it was my favorite and it was the best movie of 2018. Mark my words. It was so good, in fact, that we're getting more. So we're getting A Quiet Place 2 at some point. It's April 22nd, 2021, theoretically. But nothing is set in stone in 2020. But it now seems like we're getting another entry in The Quiet Place, except directed by somebody else, Jeff Nichols, who did the Matthew McConaughey movie Mud. Now, it's not quite clear at this time if it's going to be a sequel to the next one, if it's going to be like a Quiet Place 3, or if it's going to be like a tangent of here's some other family in this time period, or what the aliens are type of prequel. It's just something set in the world of A Quiet Place. Just yes, I don't care. As soon as you say A Quiet Place anything, I am there in a heartbeat because I loved the first one so much. Like the past few years, I've known what my best and favorite movies are. That was it for 2018. Not even close. That was the first trailer hooked me, but then when we finally saw it in theaters, it was even better than I expected. And normally, it's a little hit or miss. Like Heather will watch horror movies with me. By and large, I kind of know what she likes. Both of us came out of this going, that's at least a 9 out of 10. This is something special. And I was hearing really good things about the second one. So just sign me up. More Quiet Place, please. You see we're getting something in the Quiet Place universe. Michael, thoughts?
Oh yes, I absolutely in favor of it. The notion that this is just in the same universe, like maybe creating their own little universe here, their side universe for this little franchise, that thought is very interesting and very appealing, to be honest. The idea that John Krasinski wouldn't be attached to a second sequel to the very franchise he started, that would be really peculiar, and I'm actually hoping that he would stay on. Of course, this is very new news.
So but, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because
yeah.
This is just scuttlebutt. This is just rumor. I'm not,
sure.
Again, this is not coming from any official sources. This is just some rumbling and some rumors that I'm hearing. Is that the reason John Krasinski might not be fully involved with the Quiet Place universe is that he might be currently in talks with Universal to develop some classic Universal monster movie universe.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that would be something they would try to get back off the ground, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It would be going off the success of The Invisible Man from earlier this year. They wouldn't be connected movies, just more remakes of classic ones. Like I think there was talk of him doing a remake of or a movie about the brides of Dracula. We're getting a remake of Bride of Frankenstein, but not called Bride of Frankenstein. We're getting a Dracula remake. Like they're trying to do the Dark Universe, but not the Dark Universe. Like they're trying to continue or reboot their classic monsters, just maybe not interconnect them after Invisible Man did so well. Even if it wasn't my favorite movie, and that's more of just me and my Invisible Man bias. It's a great movie. It's not a great Invisible Man movie, if that makes sense. So if there's other movies like that, like we're getting a Ryan Gosling Wolfman movie from the same guy that did Invisible Man, so like more modern updates. So if John Krasinski is involved, count me in, because he single-handedly won me over with A Quiet Place. But yeah, you see anything at The Quiet Place, you in for it, basically?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'll give you my money now for it. I was very disappointed not to see that. It was actually one of my most anticipated films this year, and that for me, like this, I'm a sucker for aliens, and I don't know why. Anything alien wise, I'll see. I definitely am on the fence about certain horror films. So even the idea, I'm not a slasher person. Or supernatural, I can't go down that route. So anything with ghosts or spirits, poltergeist, that I'm not in there. Any of the, Friday the 13th or Jason films, like those aren't me either. But this maybe returning to making like stuff that's been a part of like the world's like conscious, like you said, Dracula, Frankenstein, like that stuff, like maybe John Krasinski stepping away. That first, I just want to say that is actually very appealing. Like I find that actually really cool if that is something that could be possible. And I just want to say for your rest of your viewers, I'll speak for them. Not saying you are a prophet, but very rarely do you say something that doesn't have some sort of connection to reality and have a high plausibility of happening. So the fact that you're willing to say this on your show, to say, I know you've already clarified it. I'll just say it again. It's just rumors. It has nothing confirmed. But you are also the same person who's said other things in the past to me privately that have come true, and I'm like, that's a pretty good gift you have. But returning to your question, yes, Quiet Place 2, cannot wait. And then whatever this new announcement, this new project, even though it's very early, I don't know enough about the director other than Mud. I thought they would go someone more known. I mean, but that remains to be seen. Either way, I would prepay it for a ticket. Either way.
Yeah, so long as we keep the essence of what made A Quiet Place special, which is strong character work. Because, the horror and the scares are great in A Quiet Place, but it's scary because you care about the family. And
Very true.
Tell me your heart just didn't break with, no spoilers, but I love you. I have always loved you. Oh, gosh. Gets me every time, but it's so well done. And so I think we can trust whoever this new guy is to carry on that legacy. Speaking of legacy... fun fact, there's almost a Halloween movie called Halloween Legacy. We have some form of spooky this season. Oh, man. This sucks. So, you said A Quiet Place 2 was your most anticipated movie of 2021. Well, 2020, but now it's 2021. My most anticipated movie of this year was going to be the sequel to 2018's Halloween, which is a sequel to the original John Carpenter classic, Halloween Kills. That got delayed until Halloween next year. Thanks, thing we can't mention. But in like a make good, I guess, of just we haven't forgotten about you fans. The creative team behind Halloween Kills gave us a quick little 30-second teaser trailer, and I like it well enough. It's fine. I get why they didn't give us a complete trailer, because now the movie's a year away, and there's some interesting things to glean from it. Michael, as an outsider to the Halloween franchise, did you see the teaser, and is there anything about it that stuck out to you?
Well, I'm not an outsider per se. We did watch the original Halloween for your bachelor party, so that was the first time I had seen that.
That was a good choice.
So the reason why I've never watched it before, because it was actually my mom. You can answer this. What year did Halloween come out? Was it 78?
78. As I have in my office a full-size poster of the original.
Oh my. Oh, that's great. That's beautiful. So my mom actually went and saw that in the theater, and the reason why she said it was it was still to this day the scariest movie she said she has ever seen, because it was so plausible. Because what did she do before she worked a real job out of high school?
She was
a babysitter. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So much like a lot of our moms for baby boomers and Gen Xers, it is scary because it's plausible, and those are oftentimes the scariest films. So for my mom, when she said that, even as a young kid, knowing that this was on Bravo's 100 scary movie moments, and there's as a kid you feel a little rebellious. So anytime you can sneak a few minutes of a rated R movie, on Sci-Fi or whatever it reruns on, I always did. But I never had the courage to watch the entire thing, because I always had it if it scared my mom, it's certainly going to scare me. So I do actually have a deeper connection maybe than what you were aware of when I watched it for the first time. So I think it's a really well done film, very scary, like you said. And I know I have not seen the 2018 Halloween, but watching this teaser today, it does capture a vibe. Seeing Jamie Lee Curtis there does something for the original fans that adds a lot of, just a little bit more credibility and a connection. And so, like you said, it was fine. It didn't really blow me away or anything. It's because I'm objectively, I'm not interested. I will probably not see the movie. But if I can put that aside, I think them doing this, just letting everyone else know, hey, we're still here for you. Here's a nugget. I think it's great that they did it, and I actually found it pretty captivating. I think it succeeds in what it was set out to do.
Yeah, as a diehard Halloween fan, like I like 2018. It was the Force Awakens of the Halloween franchise in that it just copy and pasted, but not as good what the original did. They've already likened this to Empire Strikes Back, to which a lot of people are just like, come on now. But this one feels more like it's for the diehard Halloween fans because, yes, you've got Jamie Lee Curtis back, who was in the last one, but you've got the two kids that she was babysitting in the original Halloween as full-grown adults still living in Haddonfield. They're not both reprised by the same actors. One of them is, and the other one is somebody else. But they're bringing back the sheriff from the original Halloween and one of the nurses from the original Halloween. Like, as many people as that could come back from the original movie, they're bringing back, almost like a love letter. And so they've said the first Halloween, the 2018 one, was the impact of trauma. Like, what is Laurie like now? And now they've said for this one, it's, what has the town been like? How does a town react to these vicious murders all these years later? Which, that's such an interesting concept to me. There's some interesting things in this trailer of, he has his fingers bandaged up now for some reason. So in the last one, he gets 2 of his fingers shot off, but now it's bandaged. Like, Michael Myers now seemingly cares about getting bandaged. I think, however, though, they released some other teaser trailers, like 30 seconds long, that shows the fire department coming to put out the fire at the end of the last movie that seemingly was going to kill Michael Myers and burn him alive. My guess is, this is just my theory, is people are going to come and the fire department's going to come, get him out of the house. They're not going to know it's Michael Myers, and they're going to bring him to the hospital that Laurie is at and treat his wounds, and then he goes on his rampage in the whole town. There's another shot in the trailer that a lot of people are speculating about of, he's already wearing his mask, so why is his mask in the street and he has to come pick it up or whatever? I don't know, think that's going to be a big story detail, but I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis is dying in this one. Since this is a middle part of a trilogy, I don't think she's dying. If anything, she'll die in the next one, and like your big trilogy capper. That being said, there's going to be a lot of like main characters dying. I think Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter is going to die, leading on like one last final showdown between Laurie and Michael. I've been quietly begging for some stuff for a while that Heather, I'm sure, has heard me whine and complain about enough. So the original Halloween is the only one that's canon anymore. They've cut out the confusing timeline. And we know from the last Halloween that Laurie has at least one kid, and they said she's been married twice. I just would like to know who one of her ex-husbands were, because there's some theories out there that she had a love interest in that she had like 2 lines in passing that she liked a boy at her high school in the original Halloween. I kind of would really love it if that was the dude that she was married to, at least for a little bit. Either that or someone from Halloween 2, which is no longer canon, but just have it as a fun little tip of the cap homage like they're doing with the rest of the movie. Like Halloween, the original Halloween 2 from 1981 mostly takes place in Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. That's also in this new movie. So they're really trying to get all the Easter eggs they possibly can, which makes me happy. It sucks that this movie's a year away.
Yeah.
But I'd rather watch this in a completely full theater safely. I know some people are like, just put it on demand. Heck no, this is a theater movie. Universal makes bank from these movies. They cost $8 million to make, and they make $180 million. Of course they want to put it in theaters.
Sure.
It sucks that we have to wait, but thus is the nature in life. And speaking of waiting, where's my freaking Man of Steel 2? Gosh dang it.
Oh boy.
So,
oh boy.
This does but doesn't hurt at the same time. So when James Gunn got fired for no real good reason, that was just stupid that he got fired in the first place. When he got fired from Disney for that week that he was fired, every movie studio in the world was lining up to offer him big fat sums of cash to work for them. One of those people was Warner Brothers, obviously, and he did eventually sign on the dotted line to do the new Suicide Squad movie, which looks amazing, and I can't wait for the Peacemaker series with John Cena. But in an interview recently, James Gunn opened up about they basically gave him a completely blank check to do whatever. And someone on Twitter said, did they offer you Superman? And he said that was a possibility. So for all those people that keep whining and complaining, saying Warner Brothers has no plans for Superman, I think they do. They're just being really, really particular about it. James Gunn confirming that they offered him a Superman means they do still want to do a Superman movie. And then some people are just like, well, with the Snyder Cut, we'll have Zack Snyder come back and do Man of Steel 2. I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, that doesn't seem plausible. No.
But I'm on the fence about this because I like James Gunn. I just don't know if I could see him doing a Superman movie because he has all these like fun and quirky characters, but they're always kind of misfits. Like that's why Guardians worked so well. That's why I think why Suicide Squad will work so well. He's got this very dark and warped sense of humor, which is kind of what got him in trouble in the first place. I just don't know if I buy him as a Superman guy. That being said, good directing is good directing, so maybe he could have been decent at it. What do you make of these comments, Michael, that he was offered the possibility to do Superman? Do you think it's just the studio going, you could do whatever you want? Or just, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, so it was the summer of 2019 where you had actually talked to me. You had a prediction about a one J.J. Abrams moving and then possibly signing a deal and then maybe rebooting Superman or doing Superman. Then lo and behold, a few months later in 2019, we find out that he moves over and signs a massive, massive deal with Warner Brothers. Now, nothing else has been confirmed. Like this whole year has been crazy, so I get it. There's more important things at the forefront. However, I have a similar reaction. Like, that's really cool. He's a very competent director. I think he makes good films. Not the right fit for Superman. Absolutely not. I don't think we've still gotten the best version of Superman that we can get for the big screen, in my opinion. And that includes the original, even though the original it's not like, I don't think the best.
Doesn't hold up. Doesn't hold up. It's very 70s.
But I think it's an ideal version of what Superman is supposed to be as a hero. I'm not saying it's done like the best. That's not what I'm arguing. But in my opinion, for like who he is supposed to be, I like the ideals, the virtues he's supposed to live up to. And if you were to somehow make that an amalgamation with maybe the struggling to get to that point that Man of Steel portrayed, I think is very interesting. But I have a question for you. Is like this sounds right. It sounds like there's that interest there. Where are we at? I guess for those listening who might not be up to date, and also for my own benefit, where are we at with the state of Superman, Henry Cavill, and DC? Well, where does this all stand right now as of November 10th, 2020?
So the last time we've heard anything was about 2 or 3 months ago, and it wasn't anything confirmed, but it was heavily implied that Henry Cavill had re-signed a contract to be more or less the Hulk for the DC universe, of like a really strong supporting character in other people's movies. So whether that's like Black Adam or Shazam, but no talk on a Man of Steel 2. However, those talks never seem to fully die away. Every maybe once or twice a month, some new rumors will pop up about something Superman related. At least for me, where there's smoke, there's fire. And every few weeks or so, there's just a little bit more smoke added to make me think that sooner rather than later we will see something Superman related. Because Henry Cavill, you could be like, oh, he's just keeping himself in shape for The Witcher. The dude is not in Witcher shape. He's in Superman shape. There's that video that he posted a while back during quarantine that got everyone under the sun hot and bothered. Got all the men excited because he's building his own PC. Got all the women excited, and some of the men because he's wearing a tank top. That man was shredded to the gills. He was still in shape. I'm going, you are clearly holding out hope for Superman, and you're like waiting at the ready like a Minuteman in the case that a Superman thing is going to happen. So it's a wait and see thing. I think he will be showing up in other people's movies. I'm putting it out there now. I guarantee you Henry Cavill's Superman will be in Shazam 2. whenever that movie feels like coming out. Because
kidding.
that got delayed till 2023. Guarantee you he'll be in that. Now, here's the complicated thing. Anybody that listens to the podcast for a single episode knows that I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder. I don't think he does morally good characters well. He does ambiguous characters that are bad people. He does those well. That's why he turned Batman into a murderer. He has gone on multiple interviews saying that his end goal for Superman was to, by the end of his arc, to turn him into the Superman that we know and love. So we get the Superman that we know and love by the end of the story, which kind of made me doubt it because the Justice League 2 and 3 stories that we've heard make Superman the bad guy again. However, I give him some of the benefit of the doubt because, if nothing else, in the Joss Whedon Justice League, you can clearly tell the scenes that are shot by Zack Snyder and the scenes that are shot by Joss Whedon due to Henry Cavill's lower lip. Thanks, Mission Impossible. And at the end, when Lois Lane is giving about that speech that was clearly dubbed in later about yes, our darkness is dark or whatever, but hope was still there, whatever. And at the end, we see Henry Cavill do the classic Superman chest ripping open. That is clearly a Zack Snyder shot because his face doesn't look all effed up. It looks like a normal human face. So whether that's how Zack Snyder ended his Justice League with him doing this and becoming the classic Superman now that he's back from the dead and he chooses to be more hopeful and optimistic. Also, one other tinfoil hat. I have my tinfoil hat at my feet, but I don't want to bother putting it on right now. So a big part of the Superman mythos is Superman, Martha Kent makes his Superman costume. And that was completely missing. One of my big complaints with Man of Steel is there's no reason he has the Superman suit. No story reason. Like in almost any comic book movie, the hero starts with a specific suit. Look at the first Iron Man. He built the one in the cave, then he upgraded to something else. Captain America, he started the one in the play, and then he got a new suit when he was actually in war. It happens in almost any comic book movie. Aquaman starts in street clothes, and then once he becomes the king, gets his new set of armor. Man of Steel, he literally just picks it up and wears it. There's no story reason why he's wearing that suit. Zack Snyder has also said in interviews that why is it in the Justice League that we got, Superman has the red and blue suit again, when in Batman vs. Superman, he got impaled by by Doomsday, and he's got this big old hole in his suit, right where the S is. So that should be torn and messed up, which makes me go, so you're saying there's a chance that when he comes back from the dead, we know he's got the black and silver suit in Zack Snyder's version, when he doesn't need that anymore. He's going to need someone to make him a new suit. Maybe his mama? Which, I don't mind the Man of Steel suit. I like the Man of Steel suit a lot. My only issue with it is it needs a little bit more color to it, but that's my complaint with most Zack Snyder movies, they need a little bit more color. Look at Aquaman. They just went to James Wan. What colors do you want in Aquaman? Yes.
That's right.
That's kind of my hope is at some point we get a more bright Superman, and I think we'll eventually get that. So getting back to it, I don't know if James Gunn is the best choice, so I'm glad he sticks to what he knows the best. That being said, I wouldn't be mad at all if he was brought on for Superman. I still believe it's going to end up being J.J. Abrams. It's not who I want. My hope is that it would be Brad Bird, because fight me, Iron Giant is the best Superman movie ever made.
I can't agree with you more. Where is that live action film, by the way? Oh my gosh.
In development hell, where it belongs, because it remains animated as it should.
Okay, fair enough.
Brad Bird and Christopher McQuarrie are my two top picks for a Superman movie.
Oh, that'd be great. What a great Christopher McQuarrie, absolutely.
So to make Michael just in even more anguish, Christopher McQuarrie actually did pitch a Man of Steel 2 to Warner Brothers with Henry Cavill by his side, and they turned him down.
Oh, really? What do we know anything about it? I didn't know that.
No, not really. He just said he pitched a Green Lantern movie and a Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill because they just finished working with each other on Mission Impossible Fallout.
Mission Impossible. Yeah.
But yeah, Warner Brothers turned that down. I still think we're going to get a Man of Steel 2. I'm not ready to say they'll announce it next year just because I think we're going to be set with our DC movies for a while because everything got pushed back so much. That's why, like, Batman, Jurassic World, and everything is starting to get pushed to 2022 because 2021 is already getting pretty full of stuff.
Yes.
So I don't know how many major announcements we're going to get next year, but to me, at least with Warner Brothers saying you can do anything, you can even do Superman, it, at least to me means the door is still open that we might get it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else. But before we get into our main discussion, this week's episode is brought to you by, I don't know, Shudder, the most underappreciated streaming service out there because horror's not for everybody, but for $5 a month, it's hard to beat. Also, Shudder has a feature that Netflix is now going to claim that they created, which is the ability to watch, basically just turn on and watch something like a regular TV channel. Shudder's had that for a while. Netflix is apparently testing it. We bring that up because this week, in almost like a sequel episode to the a few weeks ago when Heather and I talked about the future of movie theaters, Michael brought up a really good idea of talking about the future of streaming because that's the future and it hurts a lot. And I think some studios have jumped on streaming faster than others, and the gap between good streaming and bad streaming is getting wide real quick. Like,
yes.
For those that complain that Disney Plus doesn't have new content, I get it, but we're also in the middle of a pandemic. I would take Disney Plus over a lot of other streaming services right now because they over-delivered at launch as opposed to a lot of other ones come out going, we're going to be strong at launch, and then, as we'll talk about in a little bit here, we're missing some key features, whereas Disney Plus, when they came out, I remember they way over-delivered because Disney Plus did not advertise or even announce before they launched, oh, hey guys, did you know we're going to have all the Star Wars movies in 4K and Dolby Atmos? They didn't say that at all. They didn't say how much 4K content they would have. Or, hey, we're going to have ours for the cheapest of all the major streaming services, but also the best possible video and audio quality of all the streaming services. And now I've kind of raised on that bar to the point of I have a very strong love-hate relationship with HBO Max. It leans towards hate more than anything else because on the paper it should be a great service, and that's why I'm keeping it because like all the great future DC shows will be there. There's some great programming there. Almost all the Warner Brothers stuff will be there eventually. The problem is they came out of the gate with no plan, and it's blatantly obvious because, Michael, what your streaming services? What do you watch your streaming services on?
Yeah, so up to this point, I've usually had it on my 4K monitor to take advantage of Prime Video and Disney Plus. I just recently upgraded my Netflix to 4K.
So you watch them on your you watch them on a computer or on?
Yeah,
TV?
I used to watch it on a PC monitor because it was the only thing I had 4K on.
Okay,
but
so
now,
you watch them on a computer screen.
Yeah, but not anymore. I actually just bought, and this is it goes to serve. I bought a 4K HDR OLED TV that has Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos supported integrated into it. And so now all of my streaming services are on a really big TV, and I use the big three, Prime, Netflix, and Disney Plus. And so now all of my media content is filtered through a big TV, like I'd say most people.
Is it the TV or is it like a Roku or a Fire Stick? Or is it in the TV itself?
Yeah, it's the actual TV. It's the web. It's the what LG calls it, the Web OS. It's actually the integrated smart TV features.
Okay, well, what I was saying with HBO Max is they launched, and still they launched in July, and still to this day do not have their service on Roku or Amazon Fire Stick.
No, that's ridiculous.
And they have no 4K at all. The best they have is HD with 5.1. Peacock, same thing. Well, Peacock at least is on Roku now. Peacock got to Roku much faster. HBO Max, if I'm going to watch the Snyder Cut, I want to watch that in the best possible video quality.
Absolutely.
Also, what's frustrating right now with HBO Max is, so for a while there they had DC Universe, which was the DC Comics, but also any of the animated shows, DC original programming like Titans, Harley Quinn, Doom Patrol. DC Universe, all of its original content was in 4K. So when I watched the lackluster season 2 of Titans for the sole reason of watching Dick Grayson become Nightwing because I'm a shill, I could watch that in glorious 4K. When I watched Young Justice, 4K. They had plenty of their movies in 4K. I am pissed because that content is leaving DC Universe for HBO Max, which is now a step down in quality to HD. If you are forcing me to leave a streaming service, you should be able to match that quality. And so I think off the bat, we need to talk about what should streaming services more or less be providing at this stage, because Disney Plus, I don't need all my 4K. I don't need Disney Plus to have everything in 4K. I don't need to watch Even Stevens in 4K. It's not meant to be like that. But anything that can be converted, that should be, yes, please. That, I don't know if that's too much to ask, but I feel like 4K should be a prerequisite now.
Yeah, this is what's funny, is that we're really not saving money, and we're really not doing anything different than we were with cable. The only thing is better is access on demand, the things that you want to watch, whether it's the same movie over and over again. And the idea of like cost being buried, and we'll think about this for a second. Instead of turning on your channels like like back in the day where you had 60 channels you paid for, 70 channels, and when they started transitioning to HD TV in 2006, 2007, you had certain news channels that started going to, from analog to digital, which allowed for that signal. Then you had, certain TV shows starting to broadcast. It was a slow transition over. And then you had Blu-ray starting to come out. And so people who wanted to, have access to higher quality things, you didn't necessarily have it right away, because a lot of the format was still 4:3. It wasn't a 16:9 presentation. So you have aspect ratio changes. You have an industry change with hardware and supply chains and everything. So you're basically, the entire conscious of how we consume content had to change. Well, after a while, after it's like, well, you know what? Now that I have 900 channels, I don't watch any of that anymore. Is there a way to get around it? So the market began to change. Well, if you look at adding these up, well, Prime Video, that's $119 a year. You get Prime Video. You get for a Prime subscription. That's what I'm at. A 4K package for Netflix is now going to be $17.99 starting in December. And then Disney Plus is whatever. I actually don't know what it is. I know some
$8.
people with their early signings got
$8
exactly.
a month.
Okay. And so after a while, and then you want to add an HBO. What's HBO Max and Peacock?
HBO Max is $15 a month. And Peacock, okay, Peacock is one of the smart ones here, guys, because I think this model could work. Peacock has the tier kind of like Netflix, but it's much cheaper, but with ads. I think people are willing to pay for ads if it's a more affordable option. And I remember when Disney Plus launched, and some people were just like, it's $8. That price will go up eventually. Well, no, duh. Every price goes up eventually. Yeah. But the big difference is, I know people sometimes complain, there's not enough content on Disney Plus. Like, it's $8 right now. That's really good. Honestly, if Disney Plus was $15, I would still pay for it, because to me, there's a lot of content. There's the promise of more interesting content coming forward. But again, it's that it has the best picture quality from the get-go. Like, yes, it's $8, but also they try and put as much of the 4K content as possible in the best picture quality as possible. Like, how is it that HBO Max and a lot of other ones are twice as much, but don't have the same picture quality? Like Hulu, I think, has some 4K, but they really don't explain what is 4K and what is not. Most of it's HD. Netflix has a lot of 4K content, but they make it so expensive. Also, no offense to Netflix, but a lot of it is garbage. Like Like Netflix is like, any of our original stuff is shot in 4K, but it's not quality.
It's Well, I'll say like the two things that I liked watching. One was The Bodyguard, which was a Netflix original. Which that is a shame that wasn't. Actually, it was not a Netflix original. Excuse me, that was not that just came to Netflix. Here's the only way we could watch it in the States,
Kevin Costner movie
on streaming. No, it was it was a British TV show.
I'm just thinking of the Whitney Houston movie.
It's actually really good, man. If you want something to watch, I think you'd enjoy it. But I just watch old episodes of old TV shows, and then I watch The Crown. I thought The Crown is really high. It's actually really well done. But like I don't watch Netflix for the originals. I watch Netflix because I had a massive library of movies and TV shows that I liked watching at one point in time. And I have debated and debated and debated whether or not I should just get rid of Netflix. And I might very well do it after The Crown is done here and it's like 5th season. And because I can always buy The West Wing, right?
Every time I see The West Wing, I think of you, bud. Because right now it's on sale for like $60 on Vudu. You bring up a really good point.
My goodness.
You bring up a really good point that we should talk about. That is definitely the future of streaming. Is there's a lot of people like you, Michael, that watch Netflix because there's stuff that they used to watch on something else. Brace yourselves, people, because that stuff's not going to be on Netflix for much longer. Y'all remember the bidding war for Friends?
No.
Friends. HBO Max is paying $500 million for the streaming rights to Friends. Eventually, Friends is going to be on Peacock because Peacock is owned by NBC, and NBC was the one originally airing Friends. Eventually Netflix is going to just be Netflix originals because everyone's going to have their own little, it's a turf war of we're going to have our stuff over here. That's why HBO Max is going to have all their DC and Warner Brothers stuff. Disney Plus is going to have all the Marvel, Star Wars, everything else stuff. Netflix, I've been saying this for a little bit, whether people want to admit it or not. Netflix days are numbered. It might not be anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I bet you Netflix will not be number one in 10, 15 years. Like, ever since streaming...
There's no way.
Ever since streaming has become the go-to media, yes, Netflix has been on top, primarily because they've been the go-to spot for everyone else's content. Once everyone claims their content back, Netflix is stuck with their own originals, which is good, but if you keep canceling your stuff after 3 seasons, people don't stick around. Reason why people watch The Office or Friends or Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother is because those shows went on for so long that they were able to develop a fan base, but also it's like comfort food. Since there's so much to get out of it, you can just sit and watch forever. Stranger Things, you can finish that in a day if you want. At least a season you can finish in a day. Like, since they're so in debt, they can't afford to. They'll be like, oh, this show is super, super popular. Like The Witcher or Stranger Things. They'll be like, that show's really popular. Give it 4 seasons because we can't afford to pay actors to raise their salaries or whatever else. Because that's the other thing is, unlike some other streaming services, Netflix is massively in debt. Like, $15 billion in debt.
Oh, yes.
So... I don't know. Just Netflix is in a tricky position, and so many companies are focusing on this pandemic has just sped up the streaming wars to me because all these studios are going. Warner Brothers has restructured their entire entertainment division. Disney's restructured their entire entertainment division to funnel more and more content to streaming services, which is good and bad. It hurts the box office, I think, but at the same time, I still want to watch stuff in the best quality that I can, and I feel like at times we don't often get that from streaming services.
Yeah, that's the thing is like the idea of all this was to save money and give you more choice, but the other half of this is if you want a home studio, how much are you spending on a TV, sound system, lighting, and then you add in per month charges as well. Easily you can get right back up there to a cable bill. And the idea of just the freedom of cutting cords because you're putting the control back in your hands. Well, yeah, but you're not really saving yourself any money.
Oh, no.
Especially.
See, I'll disagree with you there. I I would take what you pay, even if the cost was the same for streaming or cable. I would go streaming any day because streaming doesn't have commercials, and I can pick what I watch when I watch it. Cable, you are subject to, all right, you will watch NCIS at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night, as opposed to watch it on Hulu or Netflix. Binge it if you want to binge it, or watch it on your own time, as opposed to cable forcing you to watch it at a certain time.
Yeah, no, then that's good. I'm saying like the illusion, like the fact that the reason why we can do all this is because it's on our control. Like I totally I get it. I do. It's the idea of saving money. Like you're just trading. You're just paying this almost in a way the same amount of money, just to have more control. I mean, I'm willing to do that. I mean, I have a YouTube Red account because I hate ads. I despise advertisements.
Same.
And so I'm willing to pay I'm willing to inconvenience myself financially for the inconvenience of my time. Time is often, especially nowadays, is the most valuable currency. It's not paper or plastic. It's your time is the most valuable thing. So I'm willing to financially fork out money in order to not be inconvenienced with my day. But the idea that I'm saving myself money, sure. I mean, the thing is you can cancel anytime, but like as soon as you start streaming, you gotta think about this too. As a family that has 4 or 5 people and they're all streaming, the normal internet connection speed of 10 years ago won't cut it any longer. And so, what is that going to do for your internet bill now? What do you have to pay for per month? So I know that for me, my first year I just signed with Xfinity. It's 300 megabytes down. That's my down speed, and that's $50 a month. Well, they always say you can bundle and get these channels and get these movies, and you pay X dollars more. It's like, well, you could explain away the finances, but the idea of this competition is only going to pull at our wallets more. And so over the course of time, there's no reason why we won't be back up to paying $100 a month for the same entertainment. It will just be, we just have the allure of, well, if I want to watch this, I don't have to wait for it to come back around in the TV guide. I can just watch it right now, and I don't have to go to a store to rent it. I can do it right here and now. But if you're those old guard, if you're those old people who are like me, just watch Netflix for those things, why not just digitally buy a show? I don't like. For me, that's the argument for myself. Unless, of course, you do like the originals, such as like Disney Plus and The Mandalorian. Like that's a massive incentive. But for Netflix, like you mentioned,
and that to me is the future, is originals.
Yeah.
Like studios are going to rally behind that, and I think that's by and large it's a good thing because TV is getting to be on par with movies, like HBO with I was gonna say Game of Thrones, but let's not discuss that last season and a half.
That's fun.
But HBO, by and large, but especially in the past few years, their stuff doesn't feel like a TV show. Their stuff feels like a movie. Like Watchmen feels like a movie. Mandalorian feels like a movie, to the point of I had a certain friend of mine notice what aspect ratios were for the first time ever. He's just like, at the end of the first episode of season 2, when they reveal that one character, did you notice they go to widescreen? I was like, you do realize 99% of the show is widescreen. They only did full screen for the crate drag. And he's like, they did what? I was like, movies and shows change aspect ratios all the time.
All the time. Yep.
But stuff is becoming more cinematic. To me, that's an exciting thing because we're getting stuff that we might not have ever gotten as a full-fledged movie, but you can devote it as a TV show. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right.
I don't think we would ever get that as a movie, but that's one of the most anticipated Disney Plus shows because I still don't believe we're actually going to get Obi-Wan until it actually starts filming and it's in front of my eyeballs because it's been teased in front of me like a carrot so for so many years now. But there's stuff like that. There's constant rumors of Ben Affleck coming back as Batman for a HBO Max series, which I don't believe those rumors, but it's at least possible in this world nowadays with such focus on streaming and originals. At the end of the day, it's the battle of the original content. whoever has the most diverse and most interesting original content, I think, will be the one holding the heads of their enemies when this is all said and done.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, that's how it's going to be. Is it's the race to quality content and separating the stuff that's just there versus stuff that's really great. And that was the other aspect too of, I think, of the streaming wars, is how good can you make, and how good can you make your own home theater experience. And again, me with a 65-inch HDR OLED TV, so contrast is amazing, with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos enabled. I'm listening on this really nice sound system, and when that aspect ratio changed, and which was a fantastic technical decision, by the way, at the end of season 1 or season 2, episode 1 of Mandalorian. What an amazing episode for one, but like that was something I'm like, this is transcending TV at this point. This is not TV anymore. There was that kind of opening thing of like they have put in a lot of energy and effort into this. This is no longer a TV show in my mind. And I will say that, seeing a 65-inch TV, it's fully taken up in all of its aspect ratio, and then the roaring of the Krayt Dragon. And I had a lot of bass turned up too. My living room shook a little bit when that happened, and it's a pretty big TV. I was sitting pretty close to it. I went, wow, this is as close as I've ever been in my home to a movie theater experience that I've ever been in my life. And in that moment, I had to ask myself, Nate, why would I go to a movie theater again? I had to ask myself, if I'm going to get these films, maybe potentially released, VOD, not saying that for the exorbitant price of, what they did for Mulan, but like, if I have the option, am I going to get out and am I going to go to a theater, or am I going to pay maybe a little more of a premium to stay at home? That's a question I never thought I would have to ask myself until I had a premium experience, if I can use that, with a really good TV, really good sound system, really good lighting. What can that do when you're seeing the director's vision, but seeing it to a point where it's fulfilled to its best degree in a home experience? I think that is a question that movie theaters desperately need to ask themselves. It's a question that I don't see being asked. Well, I think the streaming stuff is good, but the ultimate experience is that forever we could say, yeah, I have a good sound system, I have a good TV at home, but it pales in comparison to seeing it on the big screen. I think that narrative is beginning to change. That's just my theory.
The problem is, we bag on AMC in the past few months because coronavirus has hit them worse than anybody else. And that's only because they were in the red, because they were doing the changes that you suggested of what's going to get me out of my nice seating arrangement at home to see a movie in theaters. Well, AMC was revamping all of their theaters with better seats, better sound system, better projectors, making everything the best experience possible. And then this just hit at the worst possible time for them. So some theaters are taking the steps required. It's just that I think a lot of people are becoming more and more like you, of a convenience factor. And I get it. And I also get that I'm too old school in the fact of just like, if we're being honest, like, look, I'm wearing my family video shirt right now on camera because I'm old school. I like physical media. I like going to the theater. I don't think, if I can help it, if I will ever fully be one of those people that'll just watch stuff at home. If I have like I said, Bill and Ted came out in theaters and also on demand. I went out of my way to make sure I saw it in theaters because I wanted to support it. I'm too old school, I think, but I understand that that's a changing mindset. I still believe that the theaters can survive, but they'll become like what drive-ins were before the virus. For a very niche audience, they'll still be kind of around, but I do very much worry about the theaters. But I'll tell you, here's why you get out of your seats at home to go see something in theaters. Watch Avengers Endgame when Cap lifts the hammer at home compared to opening night.
Oh, yes.
I still watch that scene at least once or twice a month, just because that's to me one of the best scenes to watch, with like the rumble at the base of my sound system, 4K at home. But it's cool, but I don't feel the adrenaline. I don't feel the emotion.
Sure.
It's like, but maybe not to the same extent. It's like listening to your favorite CD in your car on your way to a concert for that same artist, and then hearing it live. There's a different vibe to that. It's the anticipation. Are you telling me that if the new Star Wars trilogy by Taika Waititi, the master himself, if it is either on Disney Plus or in the theater, you're actually going to see it on Disney Plus?
No. I have to be honest right now, no. Will it get to a point where I could? Sure. And I think that's where theaters have got to continue to provide the incentive. They've got to continue making. They have to innovate, and I don't know what they're going to do. This has been a horrible year to argue for why movie theaters are better choices, and for the health, for those who will always continue to, be cautious of the extenuating circumstances, to put it lightly, this year. The one thing that a lot of these big blockbuster films had going for them is that they appeal to 3 and 4 generations. I mean, for a lot of these Marvel films, I'm saying I'm a millennial. Gen Zers and millennials fill up the majority of the audience, but then you have Gen Xers and baby boomers right there alongside us. So technically, and you want to throw in the greatest generation, who maybe are still wanting to go out to the theater. You have 5 generations all seeing the same film. That doesn't happen too often. So you're right. The communal aspect is amazing. And I know you want to get into like some of the theaters that are definitely, say, premium, that like cook your food, bring it to your seat, who offer really incredible seating and stuff like that. I'm not even suggesting that we get to that.
The weird thing is, like, I am a stickler of, I like going to the movies, whatever else. I like, if I can physically go to the theater, then I will. I hate those places that bring food to you. It just ruins the experience for me. It just distracts me too much. I'm like, no, get out of the way, down front.
It's not. It's very strange. So I'm not actually going down that route, but that's the thing that always wants to keep me going. And you and I are the same person here. I love going out and having a time. It's a communal thing, but I like going out. And it's an event. It's something to look forward to. You put on your calendar. You go out to dinner. You put it on your calendar. You build your day or your evening around it, because it's something other people are coming in, and you can talk about it afterwards. Again, you can build in a meal, another social event around it, and think about it when movie theaters were first around. And not a lot of people could afford it. It was something you dressed up to go to, just like you would go and dress up and go to a play. It's an event, and when you go to a film, it's a special thing. And for theaters to continue to provide and basically pick at that subconscious of our moviegoers, are like, why is this so much more special? Why is it that way? And because not every film is going to be an Avengers Endgame. Not every film is like that, right? That's the vast minority that are like that have that type of feel. So what is it? What incentive financially and emotionally do people have to go to the small theater to see that no-name movie that they could easily pay $3 to watch at home? That's the bigger question. It's not the big fish. The big fish will always be there. I don't know. I love a movie theater. It's the one thing I regret not working in as a kid. I really wish, looking back, I would have worked at a movie theater.
Oh, no. I don't think you would like movie theaters if you worked at a movie theater.
Well, I don't know. I just like it. I love everything about it, but I don't know the way forward for them. I really don't. And it concerns me, because even I'm tempted by saying, like, hey, this is not a movie type of quality, like a big screen, but it's a lot closer than it was 3 years ago. And it's amazing how far home theaters have come here in this decade, from 2010 to 2020. It's staggering. And the movie theaters got to have a response to that, and not just the financial, side. You got to talk about the movie going experience and the visual and audio experience, because what they're doing with sound bars and with screen technology with Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision is pretty insane. And so not you cannot no longer sell a movie going experience just on the fact that, yeah, hey, we got crystal clear projection systems and we got really great surround sound. No, like that's old news. Okay, that's not going to cut it any longer. You're going to have to provide something else, and I just hope they figure it out.
So getting back to the streaming stuff, last question, and we'll kind of wrap things up. I guess two-parter. If it was up to you, if all streaming had to go through the Michael channel, how would you improve streaming on all platforms? And where do you see streaming going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think that the latter question there is easier to answer. It's just going to be more fragmented, and that's all. They're just going to continue to get a streaming service for pretty much every single little niche thing. It's just going to happen. So you're just going to have cable channels, but for certain proprietary entertainment, and all the rights are going to go back. Like you said, Friends is a great example. That's all that's going to happen. And so our bills are going to look the exact same eventually from the financial standpoint. But the future of streaming and how that looks in our home, with internet and data speeds going up for the average American, from where they were 10 years ago, technology advancing there, the advent of, Wi-Fi 6, and people streaming on their phones with 5G and the advent of that, like the question was always, can we support the speeds needed for everyone to be streaming? And it looks like, yes, the infrastructure will hold. So that's the big question. If we can get that out of the way, if that is taken care of, then are we going to just be inundated with new shows? Yes. And the shows are going to just look like original shows that you would have seen on network television. Network television will continue to go by the wayside as far as stuff. And so a TV show that'll come out that would have come out on like CBS airing this fall is just going to be on CBS All Access, just like they did with Star Trek Discovery. It's just going to be that simple. But the thing is, there's just going to be much more options. And so you're just going to have to continue to pay if you want to watch Star Trek Discovery and you want to watch Mandalorian on Disney Plus, but you're a small family on a budget. You're going to have to make that decision. Like, what are you going to do? I don't know. So
that to me has always been there, because you always had like those kids growing up that like watched the premium cable channels, and then there's us that had like the basic cable. But like,
exactly, yeah. It's that conversation is not going to change. It's just going to be streaming based now. That's all.
But yeah, I think it's 4K will be the new HD. This is streaming. At least it better be sooner rather than later. I'm calling you out, Peacock, and I'm calling you out, HBO Max. And also, minor nitpick, but Hulu, can you please change your interface? Because you have one of the most awful and worst. Like, it's impossible to find anything with you, Hulu. You just have one of the worst layouts. But what do you guys at home think about this? I know streaming is a complicated topic, and I know almost everything nowadays is streaming based, but what direction do you see streaming heading in the future? Let us know in the comments below. We always like hearing from you guys. And as always, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, subscribe to us on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube at Uncharted Media. And as always, stay sharp with you guys and gals.